Hello and welcome from around the world. We're glad you could join us for today's discussion with the Cincinnati region. We will cover a lot in the next 25 to 30 minutes, but among the key topics is going to be about differentiation. You could argue that differentiation is a place marketer's greatest challenge, no matter how big or small your location is, whether it's a city, a state, a province, or a country. Joining me today with some perspective on that topic is Gina Rittinger, the VP of Strategic Initiatives at the Regional Economic Development Organization, REDI Cincinnati. Gina, a warm welcome to you as well. Before we begin, you and I know each other and have for many years, but there might be some new faces on the line here. And so, why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, and what is REDI Cincinnati's mission?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve, and good morning, everyone. It's always still odd being on a call like this and not seeing your faces. So thank you for joining me and Steve this morning for 30 minutes. As Steve mentioned, I'm Gina Rittinger, Vice President of Strategic Growth at Ready. I've been with the organization now almost 7 years. Joined shortly before the pandemic. So it really feels like I've probably only been with the team for a couple of short years. Uh, REDI Cincinnati is the regional economic development initiative in Cincinnati. We are responsible for helping companies grow and expand across 15 counties in 3 states. So Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky, and Southeast Indiana. So as you can imagine, it's a little bit interesting when you're trying to figure out how to place a company in one of those 3 states and how do you work with your elected officials and your community members across 3 states and that work. But our mission really is to create a sustainable, vibrant, diverse economy for years to come.
Like stakeholders times three in a way.
Exactly.
For those who have never been to Cincinnati, can you give us an idea of what the region is like in a couple? I know it's always hard to summarize these in 2 to 3 sentences, but what would you explain about Cincinnati to give people a flavor of it?
Yeah, so I am a Northern Kentuckian, born and bred. Lived my entire life in Alexandria, Kentucky. One thing I truly love about where I live is the fact that we truly have 4 seasons. Um, we see everything from sunshine and beauty to lots of snowfall and ice. But it's a great place to raise a family. It's a very Midwestern vibe for sure, but we are not the flyover state or area like you will hear other placemakers or maybe site selectors even talk about. So it's a really great little community, small town feel, but we've got a really nice urban core in our Cincinnati and our downtown area. So we've got several universities, University of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky University, Xavier, all D1 and UC specifically R1 around our urban core. So we also have a great diversity of population and age that are coming into our urban core. And I think for our friends that are joining internationally, I think as a placemaker, as an economic developer, it's always going and explaining, like, where is Cincinnati? Um, and I certainly never start my conversation with, I'm from Northern Kentucky, because usually people are like, where is that?
Yes, definitely the regional dynamics and that multi-state uh, setup is quite interesting for the whole region there. Um, well, great. Just to begin with some context around the Proven Ground campaign, which is what we're here to talk about. It launched in 2025. It was a business attraction campaign targeting executives across the US, Canada, and key countries within Europe. There were two primary outcomes that Ready was seeking through this campaign. Number one was to increase the knowledge of what Cincinnati offered as a business destination, and then number two, um, a meaningful contribution to the lead pipeline for the organization. So certainly that awareness on the front end, and then making sure that we were getting some leads on the other end as well. So with that, those are some of the basics of the Proven Ground campaign. But there's often a stimulus, a catalyst for why these things come about. So can you talk a little bit about the situation when this all started? What was going through your mind around the time that there was some transition going on within the organization in a key role, and so a lot of things were coming at you. So just if you can bring us back to that.
Yeah. When I first joined REDI, I started leading our marketing and strategic communications. And then I actually ended up transitioning into leading research, which is such a nice partnership between marketing and communications when you think about really needing the data and the attributes to support the messaging and the content that you're putting out there. So it was a really nice transition. Then I actually started working on strategy overall for the organization and then our regional strategic initiatives, partnering with our CEO, Kim Lauterbach, on any of those great opportunities that came our way to think more regionally across the 15 counties. And then I transitioned into leading our business development team, which for me was amazing because sometimes marketing and business development can sometimes clash on agreeing on goals, right? So for me to actually step in and take over the business development team and really put my marketing hat on, but also think about carrying that sales bag and talking about the region, think it was a really unique opportunity. And then last year, in going into the second quarter, I ended up stepping back in and taking over the marketing and communications team, but also kept research and strategy. So I started looking at our marketing strategy with very different eyes as having been in that business development seat. And when I really looked at what we were doing, we're all economic developers on this call, I would assume, for the most part. And every region, every EDO, where whatever you're doing, we're talking about similar things. We're talking about we've got a great workforce, we've got great costs, we've got great logistics, et cetera. Like it's a very competitive landscape, and we're all kind of leaning on the same areas. But I think when I stepped in, I was like, from a differentiation perspective, I started thinking about our companies that already reside in Cincinnati or the ones that we were working to locate here or the ones that were recently located. And I kept hearing the same things. Hey, we're coming to Cincinnati because we can test ideas, we can refine our operations, we can scale our innovations quickly. So that is really when Proven Ground started to take shape in my mind. Like the companies are looking to prove out their innovations, their technologies, their business models, and they're finding success. So as the business developer, I started thinking, how do we tell their stories? But as the marketer, I was like, we need it to be authentic and steeped in fact.
Yeah,
So
and that's
that's
great.
kind of how it all started.
Yeah, that's amazing tee up, and we'll show some elements from the campaign here shortly. But I guess also for some of our international guests, Cincinnati is the 30th largest region by population in the US, which is quite similar to several other cities in the Midwest. You
Yes.
have all around the same population is Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Columbus, Cleveland, Indianapolis. There's probably about five others that would be in that same ballpark. And they're all around the same size. They're all offering a strategic location in the middle of North America. I mean, you talk about differentiation. That is the essence of it, of the struggle of differentiation, is the fact that you have all these competitors that are basically, I mean, you could just change the logo on a pitch deck, and a lot of the same value propositions are there in some ways, right?
It definitely can appear that way.
Yes, yes. So this idea of proven ground, I mean, from our perspective, we loved it in that there was this international, well, there's this concentration of international companies that were big brands and really well known. There's also some American-based companies that are there, big brands, really well known around the world. And it was almost like, gosh, there are all these cities around, but Cincinnati has this concentration of really well-known global companies. So it's a proven ground in terms of, gosh, everyone can say the same thing, but we have them here. And not to say that there's not great companies in all these other places, but the concentration of them was really special. But this additional insight that they love to come and test things, I think it really brings a nice dual aspect to this proving ground concept. Don't you agree?
I do. And, Cincinnati, we have 8 Fortune 500 companies, 3 of which we definitely have great recognition with Procter and Gamble being one of them, P&G. I'm sure a lot of our listeners here today are using some P&G products in their home. GE Aerospace just made a significant announcement yesterday for greater concentration, more investment in U.S. manufacturing. I mean, we are really blessed to have a company like GE Aerospace who is testing and proving out their innovations every day and really changing the global market landscape around aerospace and aviation defense. So quite a cool company there. And then you think about the Kroger company. They are a grocer. However, they would classify themselves as a digital company and technology company, which they very rightfully are. But then we also have more than 500 companies, foreign direct investment companies in the region. So we have our friends in Northern Kentucky, Prismian. They are actually headquartered out of Italy, out of Milan, but they have their North America headquarters in Highland Heights. They're one of the largest global wire and cable manufacturers. So if you think about connecting with your family via communications or powering your home, they're bringing all of that technology into our homes and our companies. So we definitely are very gifted with these really great hard hitters, heavy hitters across the region. And then, from the proven ground piece, I think if I have to think about our like our international audience and our domestic audience, proven ground is a phrase that seems to resonate no matter where you are
Hmm.
in the country or in the world. So it was kind of easy to get on board, and our companies fit nicely into that theme.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up the just a little bit about the campaign here, and we'll talk through things. Uh, Make sure you can see that. All right, there we go. So yeah,
Yes.
here is the framework basically for this campaign. There's this brand promise where business success happens. You have the campaign concept, proven ground, and really this overarching message. While other cities promise potential, Cincinnati delivers proof. Here, businesses find the foundations they need: talent, infrastructure, partnerships. But the most important point, all backed by a track record of global success stories. Success leaves clues, follow them here. That's really the narrative that this is following. And I will share one other piece of this, which is just the the message pillars. So proven product, proven partnership, and proven performance. These are the three elements of this campaign. There's proof points that are aligned to each of these three. So when did I guess when the strategy was first presented around this proven ground concept, can you take us back to that and what really resonated with you most, and maybe what part felt most outside your comfort zone as well?
Yeah, I think the what clicked or what resonated, again, what you see here is how we tell the story as an economic development organization about the region. But again, it was thinking about the companies, like why and what do they consider proven ground or proof points, right? And it's a bit their ability to test, innovate, and scale. I mean, it's kind of a shared thing. So that really resonated with me. Um, what felt a little bit outside of my comfort zone when we were thinking about kicking this campaign off was, what if we have companies that don't want to share or don't want to participate? Because so often um, they want to fly under the radar, right? And they're hesitant to share their secret sauce, just like an EDO can be, right? Like we're we all want the best companies in our regions. But what I found is we could encourage the companies, like, talk about the reasons for your success here, but you don't necessarily have to get in the weeds on your business model. And then we found that they were really on board. So, that was one piece. I didn't know how they would feel about sharing their stories. And then just, what was outside of my comfort zone. Economic development is so much about relationships and connection. To put more of your investment in digital and hope and pray that you're going to see ROI, that's a little bit outside the comfort zone, right? Like you're starting to load the top of the funnel or the beginning of the customer journey, and like how do those suspects that you're gathering, how do they really transition or convert to leads? That's just, that's a little bit of the unknown. And I've been excited to work with these studios to figure out how we continue doing that.
Yeah, uh, one phrase that has come to mind between our teams has been this concept of a North Star. Having a North Star to point to. So, proven ground doesn't come into play for every execution. It's not a phrase that's mentioned every single time. I think that get a little tiring to some degree. But it's strategically used. It's strategically placed in there. Um, but it does help align everyone. I think that the big alignment is let's use companies to tell our story. This is something that we want to lean on and put them forward as the heroes of this, so that other companies can see, gosh, there's something going on there, and my peers are there. Um, and so it's this concept of the North Star having the framework and the overall strategy. I mean, this isn't just a slogan. It's not even really a slogan. It is a North Star, a strategic concept that guides the entire team. So how do you get that buy-in internally with your marketing team, but also with the leadership team as well?
Yeah. So Ready's one of our values is around alignment and transparency and innovative thought, right? And I think the one thing about our CEO, Kim, she encourages us to fail fast, take risk, explore, and test ourselves. So I always am really grateful for that she's like, yeah, let's try it. She's just so supportive. And I think that helps the overall team take confidence or have confidence in what we're doing as an organization. But when I mention alignment, I think I mentioned earlier that conflict that can occur between business development and marketing. You have to remove that conflict and you have to become seamlessly integrated and aligned as a function. Like you have to agree on the goals of what a campaign is doing and how it's going to do it and who are the companies that you're going to lean into and who are the regional partners. We work a lot with our community economic development professionals. Um, Getting them to come on board with us and say, yeah, let's tell the story about a company in our community. Like, I think that is always so cool. So it's not just an internal alignment, it's also alignment with A, our companies, and B, our communities that we're serving. But my most important takeaway there is get aligned internally, particularly with business development, marketing, and even research.
Yeah, yeah, that's a struggle with a lot of organizations. I'll pause just briefly to say if you have a question that you would like to ask, please feel free to drop it into either the chat or there's a Q&A function as well. And I'll be happy to integrate that into the conversation here. So if you do have a burning question, do feel free to drop that in. Um, Proving ground. It's not itself a very distinctive phrase. Some people do believe that the tagline or the phrase has to be that distinctive quality to things. We talked about it being more of a strategic concept that aligned all of the creative. Can you talk a little bit more about what distinctiveness, differentiation means to you in light of the fact that yes, proven ground is, I mean, you can use that phrase in a lot of different contexts, but it really is more at that strategic level, right?
Yeah, I mean, the phrase itself matters, certainly, but the real differentiator is the strategy behind it and the stories that we're telling and the content that we're putting to it, the data and attributes that we're utilizing to tell those stories. So that tagline doesn't create the distinction. It actually What's actually creating that distinction is the proof. The companies, our industries, the outcomes that are backing up our messaging. So, I think that thinking about proven ground as more of a platform than a slogan or a tagline, I think is really, really important. And I think a lot of EDOs, and I've talked with a lot of my peers in other cities, we all struggle with how do you tell, like, how do you have that one North Star as a regional entity? It's more easy to have a North Star as an organization, but doing it regionally it's hard. It's tough. But when you've got really proven, pardon the pun, content to lean on and a strategy to align to, it makes it much easier.
I'll bring up a couple other. So this is the website and a bit about how the message has been woven in, proven success as the marquee, and we've woven in some of the different pillars as key areas of different landing pages. You have some executions here in terms of some ads and how this is expressed on platforms like LinkedIn. Um, can you talk a little bit about the process of this was not a campaign. It came together quite fast, and so it was not a campaign where you had 10 months to prepare for it, and then all of a sudden, um, you launch with everything ready. This was one of those situations where you're moving fast in one direction, and then you're pivoting, but that pivot, you can't drop everything. And so this was a process to get everything incorporated into the website, into organic social to complement the paid social and so forth.
Yeah. So you mentioned fast. Yeah. I think within 60 days, we hit the ground running with the new platform. Um, but I think what was key to that, it's not the graphics, it's not the design, it's really about the content and the alignment of messaging. So when I say that, it's making sure that you have a foundation already in place, like your website. Um, where are you gonna send those people to? What is the material that you want them to take away? When you are talking with that C-suite leader and you're trying to explain how great, this region is, you want them to stop and and go back and find things on their own. And if it's not aligned or it's not consistent with what you've shared with them, they're gonna walk away feeling a little more confused, like, "Why should I choose this region?" So I think, making sure that our website foundationally was sound and in the right place, and thankfully, that was something that we had done years ago. We had made significant investment into, that part of our organization, so it really does serve as an extension of our business development team. But if you think that you're gonna design a campaign and have these beautiful graphics and images but you don't really have the nuts and bolts behind it, it's not going to be effective, right? So I would tell people to, take a beat and really think about your foundation before you launch a campaign. And that's in any market. I spent 13 years working for a global manufacturer and I couldn't, if I went out and just launched a campaign, but it didn't have any longevity, because we didn't have a strategy behind it and have the stories mapped out and how we were going to tell that story over a 12 or 18 or 24-month and beyond perspective, then it wouldn't be successful. So you
Yep.
can design all the pretty pictures that you want, but that's just my
Yep.
2 cents, regardless of where you are and what you market.
And I think there's some proof in the pudding as we look at the metrics here from last year's campaign. So this launched in 2025 as a reminder. So for a full year, it performed really
Not a
well.
full
We
year.
actually,
Not a
I'm
full
sorry,
year, Steve. Look, not a full year of launch.
not a
We
full
only
year.
had
Actually, yes, you are
a half a
correct.
year of a launch.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
about half a year by the time we actually got going, right? Um,
Yes.
And so, these are excellent numbers. 240 leads, which is fantastic. A couple of them are in the pipeline right now. The leads that were confirmed that came through were validated as being on target, even if they didn't have a current interest right now. But Cincinnati, the region, got into the discussion early. We did a comparison too of before and after. We saw some pretty drastic differences between before proving ground and having more, not generic messaging, but just staying very dry and not really tapping into some of the emotional wording and elements of a campaign, to afterwards, and click through rates doubled, and we were able to sustain that success for quite a long time. The I love this stat. In 11 months, so that includes before the campaign even really got going. So in about an 11-month time frame, for the campaign accelerated website visitation from the target markets. This is something that we talk to clients all the time about, where if you look at total traffic, a lot of that is local, but if you're looking at your target markets, it's a much, much different story. And this campaign accelerated that traffic by about 7 years, which is just a really fantastic way to look at things. What does this mean? Based on the traffic that you were getting from these target markets, this campaign really just accelerated that. It got you 7 years of traffic in that 11-month time frame. But one of the coolest things that I think about this entire campaign was that your companies in Europe were actually seeing this. And I understand you got some feedback that, gosh, we've been seeing this and we love that you're active over here. It's so rare for digital marketing to hit your stakeholders. But in this case, it sounded like that actually occurred, not necessarily by intention, but certainly that goes a long way in terms of building momentum for a campaign like this.
Yeah, so I mentioned that we had over 500 foreign direct investment companies in the region, and it is really nice validation when you hear one of them say, "Hey, my counterparts in Italy or France or Germany told me that they were seeing some messaging around Cincinnati." That for me was like relief because I don't see the advertising, right? I'm not the audience. I'm not the one being marketed to. Yes, I see it when my C Studios team is showing me things, but I'm not being served that advertising. And that brings up another point. I've got people in the Cincinnati market, they're like, I'm not seeing the advertising. And I'm like, because you're here. You're not my audience. I need people, I need to put my investment in people that do not know that we're here. And they're like, oh, okay. It's kind of like the billboard discussion. Like, you may see a billboard because you're living there, but your target audience isn't going to see it because they're not in the region. But digital gives you that opportunity to take the message across the ocean, right, to another part of the world. So I definitely was very pleased to hear when somebody would tell one of my business developers or even our CEO, "Hey, my company was telling me that that they saw this advertising." So it's good to know, or this content. It's not just advertising, but content. So
Well, we have a few questions here that came in just in the last few minutes, so we can hit those before we wrap up. But one of them, Gina mentioned having the executive walking away with something. How does that look like? Gated content, research reports. So just in terms of making sure executives are coming away with something valuable, how would you address that?
yeah, so it depends on where it is in the project, but a lot of times our research team will work to give them very specific information about the region around the things that they're looking for. So, we've had interesting um, questions around, I'm struggling to think, but weird questions like how many gallons of milk fat are you producing? Like, it's just very weird, random questions that C-suite leaders or like maybe a general manager of a plant or a manufacturing company is looking at. So we certainly work to give them that information via our research reporting. Data content, you know, I, I sit on the fence a little bit in gated content. I have people coming to my website because I genuinely want them to be able to find the information easily that they're looking for. So I don't typically gate my content. And I feel like that also creates an opportunity for companies to come back and keep utilizing us as a resource. So some people have very different views on the gated content piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a tough question that we get is, should we get our content, and how many leads are you willing to lose to pick up the one or two that you may gain? So
Yes.
that's how we often think of things. Another question. Yeah, someone had said they had been to Cincinnati for a Brookings event. The region has a rich history. Have you decided to leverage the region's history in your messaging?
Absolutely. When we talk about proven ground, it is really steeped in the history of the organization. I mentioned P&G earlier. If you go back to their roots in the 1800s and the way that they started, they were entrepreneurial when they came into the region, and I think that's also a very unique and special piece about Cincinnati. The entrepreneurship community and the way that we support them. I think about MedPace, one of our major life sciences companies in the region, again, started as a small entrepreneurial company. Now it's global. So I I think leaning on those things, that history, that strong history as an advanced manufacturing hub is really important to our message.
Last question, and perhaps I don't know if you're going to want to answer this one, but how much did you spend on the campaign? The numbers were very good for what was spent on it, but I'll give an approximate range. I don't know if you wanna go there.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to divulge the numbers, but I will say we are a private nonprofit. So if you can think about it, our budgets are not limitless. They are not huge. Um, the spend is fairly modest. Uh, where we spend more of our time is not so much in the actual treasure, but it's again the people and creating the content. We were very thoughtful. We invested more time, team time, into thinking about what is the messaging behind it. And then the paid piece of it was helping us amplify that. But we still do a lot of organic marketing as well. So we know we can't put a lot of dollars into a paid spend. So organic is still a crucial part of the way that we market our organization and our city and our region.
Excellent. Gina, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining and sharing your insights. And to everyone else, thank you for joining as well. We appreciate it. Keep an eye on our social media. We have more of these conversations coming up soon. So we look forward to seeing you there. Enjoy your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.